The diplomatic hangar on Outpost Zenith buzzed with tension as the Galactic Confederation delegation prepared to receive their newest potential member species. Lieutenant Vrax Tor of the Confederation Elite Guard stood at rigid attention, his scaled skin shimmering with irritation beneath his ceremonial armor. This was beneath him playing honor guard for a species that had barely mastered interstellar travel. Humans. The very thought made his dorsal spines twitch with contempt. "Remember," Captain Ilara whispered to her squad, "these humans have only recently been granted provisional status. This is merely a courtesy meeting." Vrax Tor clicked his mandibles in disdain. He had reviewed the intelligence reports. Humans had achieved spaceflight barely a century ago, while the Confederation had been expanding across 3 galactic arms for millennia. Their technological advancement was unimpressive, their military prowess laughable, and their biological composition fragile. Reports indicated they couldn't even survive exposure to standard atmospheric variants without assistance. The hangar doors slid open, revealing a small Earth vessel. Plain, functional, lacking the elegant bioengineering of Confederation ships. A boarding ramp extended, and 3 figures emerged. 2 were clearly security personnel, wearing simple black uniforms, with minimal armor. Between them walked a middle-aged human male in a gray diplomatic suit. He was entirely unremarkable average height, graying hair at the temples, and a relaxed demeanor that seemed inappropriately casual for such an occasion. Captain Ilara stepped forward. "Ambassador Chen, welcome to Outpost Zenith. I am Captain Ilara of the Confederation Elite Guard. We are honored by your presence." The human smiled. A gesture Vrax Tor had been briefed was meant to indicate friendliness, not aggression, despite the showing of teeth. "The honor is mine, Captain. Earth is grateful for this opportunity to join the galactic community." Vrax Tor couldn't contain his derision. These humans were being offered a gift beyond measure. Acceptance into the Confederation would advance their civilization by centuries, yet this one spoke as if he were doing them a favor. As the formal introductions continued, Vrax Tor's attention wandered. His family lineage traced back to the founding of the Confederation. He had personally led campaigns against the Void Swarm that had saved billions of lives. Now he was reduced to ceremonial duty for a species that would likely serve as little more than a curiosity in the Grand Confederation archives. The procession began moving toward the diplomatic chambers, with the honor guard falling into formation around the visitors. Vrax Tor found himself walking directly behind Ambassador Chen. Each step the human took on the polished hangar floor seemed to fuel the lieutenant's irritation. When the group paused at the security checkpoint, something in Vrax Tor snapped. A sudden, impulsive urge overtook his military discipline. With a quick glance to ensure Captain Ilara's attention was elsewhere, he leaned forward and expectorated a glob of bioluminescent fluid directly onto the human's left boot. The reaction was immediate, but not what he expected. Rather than offense or surprise, Ambassador Chen turned slowly, his eyes meeting Vrax Tor's with an unexpected intensity. "Lieutenant," Chen said quietly, "I believe you've made a mistake." Before Vrax Tor could respond, a strange sensation began to overtake him. His limbs grew heavy, and an inexplicable compulsion flooded his nervous system. Horror washed through him as he realized he could no longer control his own body. His legs buckled, bringing him to his knees before the human. What is happening?" He managed to gasp, even as his own hands began to move against his will, reaching toward the ambassador's sullied boot. Ambassador Chen's expression remained neutral, but his eyes had changed, taking on a subtle luminescence that reminded Vrax Tor of deep space phenomena. "We find it's better to demonstrate rather than explain," Chen said, his voice carrying an undercurrent that seemed to reverberate directly in Vrax Tor's neural pathways. Humanity learned long ago that appearing non-threatening has significant tactical advantages. By now, The entire delegation had frozen in shock. Captain Alara's hand hovered over her sidearm, but she seemed unwilling or unable to draw it. Raxtor watched in horror as his own hands methodically cleaned the spittle from the human's boot, using a portion of his ceremonial cape to polish the surface to a perfect shine. "You should know, Lieutenant," Chen continued conversationally, as if nothing unusual were occurring, "that humans evolved on a planet where we were rarely the strongest species. We weren't the fastest, couldn't fly, couldn't breathe underwater. Yet somehow, we ended up in charge." He crouched down, bringing his face level with Vraxtor's. "Do you know why?" Vraxtor couldn't respond, his mandibles frozen in place. "Pattern recognition and adaptation," Chen explained. "And something else, something your intelligence reports clearly missed." He tapped his temple. "Humans are natural psionics. Every single one of us. We just don't advertise it." The realization hit Raxtor like a gravitational collapse. The Confederation had encountered psionic species before, but they were rare, and their abilities were usually limited to simple telepathy or empathic sensing. What the ambassador was demonstrating was direct neural control, a capability so potentially dangerous that it would have immediately disqualified humans from Confederation membership had it been known. "Don't worry," Chen said, seemingly reading his thoughts. "This is temporary and harmless. Just a little lesson in humility." 5 seconds after the initial incident, Raxtor found himself back in control of his body, still kneeling before the ambassador. The human offered his hand another gesture Raxtor now understood very differently. "Stand up, Lieutenant. No permanent harm done." Raxtor accepted the assistance, rising on unsteady legs. The diplomatic party resumed its procession as if nothing had happened, but everything had changed. The lieutenant fell back into formation, his perception of humanity fundamentally altered. Later, in the Confederation security briefing room, Captain Ilara addressed her shaken team. "The diplomatic corps has been informed of humanity's undisclosed capabilities," she stated formally. "The official position is that we proceed with integration planning while reassessing their classification." "Reassessing?" one of the junior officers asked. "Shouldn't we be considering quarantine protocols or defensive measures?" Captain Ilara's expression remained carefully neutral. "Ambassador Chen has assured the High Council that humanity comes in peace. They claim they concealed their abilities only because of how easily they are misunderstood." "And we believe them?" Raxtor found himself asking. "We don't have much choice," Ilara replied. "Their delegation arrived in 3 unarmed transport vessels. Our intelligence suggests they have fewer than 50 interstellar-capable warships. They pose no conventional military threat to the Confederation." What remained unspoken was the obvious conventional military threat was no longer the metric that mattered. As the briefing concluded, Raxtor approached Captain Ilara privately. "Permission to speak freely, Captain?" She nodded. "I believe I've compromised our position. My actions were inexcusable." Ilara's expression softened slightly. "Actually, Lieutenant, the diplomatic corps believes your impulsive behavior may have been fortunate. Better to learn about their capabilities now, in a controlled setting, than during a real crisis." Vraxtor contemplated this. The human ambassador Chen, he could have done much worse than force me to clean his boot. "Precisely," Ilara agreed. "Remember that when you're assigned to the permanent Earth delegation next cycle." Vraxtor's mandibles clicked in surprise. "Captain, your request for reassignment was approved this morning," she said, with what might have been the Rykilian equivalent of a smile. "The High Council believes your unique experience makes you ideally suited to serve as security liaison to Earth." As he left the briefing room, Vraxtor reflected on how quickly everything had changed. 5 seconds had been all it took to transform his understanding of humanity, his career trajectory, and possibly the future of the Confederation itself. he made a mental note to research human customs thoroughly before his new assignment began. Starting with the significance of boots in their cultural hierarchy,